a lot of turmoil at San Diego. And yeah, you can't beat 80 and sunny for 365 days a year.
Yeah.
But if you want to play and you only have maybe a couple years left, you think, before you might retire, I want to go somewhere where I'm going to win a championship at the end of it. With the close of the 2024 NWSL season, immediately after it, Monday of this week, the NWSL free agency window opened. There is chaos. Sandra, it is the wild, wild west out
Okay.
here in free agency, not only because of players that had contracts at their clubs are wide open for selection now if they're under free agency. Every player is a free agent following their contract end. That is part of the new CBA that was signed this season. Also, the college players, well, frankly, any player, you could be in high school playing for all I care. They are eligible to be signed now by teams. We're already seeing it a little bit. San Diego made a signing, but now free agency is here and it is changing the game. And in this first offseason of free agency, Sandra, we're going to see a lot of differences. What's maybe like the biggest change that we could see with free agency, no NWSL draft in this offseason?
I think piggybacking off of what we saw in the beginning of free agency last year, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some just re-ups from clubs with players that have already had contracts with them. I think one of the things that might surprise people most about free agency is what players are looking for. And for some players, a good chunk of them, might just be the concept of stability. So getting a decent contract, even if it's a 1-year option within a club that they're already familiar with, that they've already have experience with, and they want to continue and see that going. I think Houston, probably the best example of that. When we run down the list of players, they don't have a ton of free agents that they haven't already maybe negotiated with already. We saw some contracts kind of come to life going into the playoffs. I think Barbara Olivetti was one of them that comes to mind. And I think that's what might throw people off a little bit, because I think when you think of free agency in other leagues, it's absolutely maddening, right? It's like highest bidder type of energy. And I don't know if we're quite there yet with
Mhm.
NWSL. This is going to be just the third iteration of a free agency period for the league. And I think what we've seen off of the last two examples is that it really is just that. For some players, it is just about finding the right fit and getting some stability. And along the way, there's uh, a couple of home runs, like we saw last year with Gotham snatching up four of the biggest targets on the free agency list. I don't know if we're gonna see or feel some of that this year.
With the new CBA putting into place also salary cap rules and allocation money going away, there's a lot of like loopholes that teams can try to do to get players, but it's hard to sign someone that is a big free agent if you don't have the money for them,
Yep.
right? And you can't compete with that. There are some players that retired this year that have said goodbye, which of course open up spots on rosters. So looking at it from that end, the holes and where teams need players, some of the notable retirees at the end of this 2024 season is Gotham's Sinead Farley, Angel City's Merritt Mathias, San Diego's Alex Morgan, Gotham's Kelly O'Hara, Kansas City's Desiree Scott, and Portland Thorns' Christine Sinclair. So definitely some positions, right? Salary caps opening up, opportunities for different players. There are some big free agents this offseason, Sandra. Some of the notable free agents around the league include Angel City's Kristen Press, the Angel City rookie defender Maddie Curry, Chicago's Tatum Milazzo, Gotham's Midge Purse, Kansas City's Kristen Hamilton, and goalkeeper A.D. Franch, Racing Louisville's Abby Urseg, Caroline at North Carolina, Marta, Becky Sauerbrunn, Lou Barnes at Seattle, and Nicole Barnhart, another goalkeeper. A lot of free agents. When you look at this list, Sandra, who jumps out at you? Who are the biggest names that you see here that could make moves?
Well, biggest names that could make moves for me, I think I got to go with Carolina and the North Carolina Courage. I think there's big names on this list, but I don't know if they're going to make moves, right? Like Kristen Press is a huge marquee name. Marta, huge marquee name. She's coming off of an incredible season with Orlando, but
Marta's not going anywhere.
these are players in
Not going anywhere.
different phases of their careers at this point. And so where are they going to go? Probably nowhere. They're going to stay either right where they want to be or make a different type of decision for themselves. So when I'm looking at players who are possibly going to make a move, or at the very least a huge target for other teams to try to pitch and convince, it's without a doubt 100% Carolina. We're talking about the former MVP here. We're talking about a player that was coming off of an ACL injury. We just saw her kind of getting into form a little bit, but just maybe ran out of time in the regular season. And when I think about teams that want to have a smart, creative, attacking, vicious type of presence in their final third, I think Carolina is absolutely the type of player that you want to try to go out and target.
And for a fact that Sean Nahas in North Carolina are trying to get Carolina to stay. It hands down. You don't want a
Absolutely.
player like that to go away, especially because she hasn't really been able to contribute in the last year. She was coming off of that ACL injury that happened at the end of 2023. She went to the Olympics and picked up a little bit of a knock with Brazil, and we only got to see her for spurts and minutes towards the end of this season. Carolina is a huge shout on this list. I think you could also argue that Becky Sauerbrun's not going anywhere on that list. Lou Barnes with Seattle. I mean, she spent her entire career in Seattle. She's not going anywhere. I think also on this list is Kristen Hamilton as a free agent who is at Kansas City as a forward. I mean, she's had such a long tenured, successful career in the NWSL, and Hamilton's done a really good job of making herself useful and available. And she did not get a lot of time this year under Vlad Landowski at Kansas City, namely because they brought in players like Temla Shawinga and Michelle Cooper had an incredible season, and they just bulked up their attack. However, I don't know if Kristen Hamilton's going to go anywhere. She spent a lot of time in Kansas City. She has a home there. She has a life there. But if I'm another team, I'm looking at Kristen Hamilton and saying, how can I get this veteran on my team? What is it going to take? Like Midge Purse, there's also a conversation around her being at Gotham and, of course, sustaining an injury this year, so not seeing a lot of time on the field. But that's another one. There are a lot of other free agencies. The graphic and the full screen that we showed you on this show were just some of them. There's a couple other players that have stuck out to me, Sandra. Danielle Colaprico, midfielder at San Diego Wave, that was a huge grab for Casey Stoney in San Diego to bring in. The fact that San Diego hasn't announced, I should say, their head coach yet. There's a lot of change in the coaching staff. If I'm Colaprico, I'm saying, hey, where else can I go? Where else might I fit into a system that is already established? What is looking good on the field? How am I going to get playing time? How are the players around me going to continue to grow? Because there was a lot of turmoil at San Diego. And yeah, you can't beat 80 and sunny for 365 days a year. But if you want to play and you only have maybe a couple years left, you think, before you might retire, I want to go somewhere where I'm going to win a championship at the end of it, because that's what Colaprico wants, hands down. There's a lot of defenders on this list, honestly. Madison Curry at Angel City, Sam Hyatt out of Gotham FC. For Kansas City Current, all of the goalkeepers are technically free agents this year, with Franch, Schultz, and Katie Frayne. Abby Urseg out of Racing Louisville, Megan Klingenberg, Becky Sauerbrunn, and Anna Helferty, who can play in the back line. She's a bit of a hybrid player for Washington Spirit. She plays all over. But that is pretty interesting to me, because if you're a team that's looking to shore up defensively, you might go to this free agency list. Sam Hyatt was a player at Gotham that stepped in during the Summer Cup. She had some good, significant minutes in the summer window of NWSL Gotham play, playing alongside incredible players, right? Like she's had to learn from Tierna Davidson this year, Jess Carter, Emily Sonnet. If I'm looking at a player to maybe develop, add into my back line, I'm looking at Sam Hyatt, who could fill some holes.
Yeah, that's a good shout. For
I
sure.
like this, Shell. It's
Yeah.
just the start. It's just the tip of the free agency iceberg in NWSL. There's a lot of players also in England and Europe that we could see maybe come over. We will talk about it. We're diving into it all over this offseason. This is fun, but it's just the tip. Let us know your free agents that you want to see signed. And also, if your team has some openings, who do you want to get on your squad?